All right, good morning, everybody. How are you? Thank you for joining me on this stream here, looking at Eberron, rising from the last war on Roll20. The folks at Roll20 were kind enough to send me a review copy. I got my morning coffee here for this review. If you're on the West Coast, it's kind of early, but 10 o'clock on the East Coast. So the folks at Roll20 were kind enough to send me a review copy of Eberron, and I thought I'd do a stream to sort of show off what that looks like. Good morning, John. I'll be answering questions on the chat if you guys have any questions. This should be a quick video. These Roll20 modules are set up kind of neat, and you could just go through it very quickly and see what they offer. So like I was saying, the Roll20 folks were kind enough to send me a review copy. I thought I'd do a stream. I'll put it up on YouTube later. I reviewed the books earlier in the week. Hold up. My Twitch channel here. I'm gonna see if I can show you guys a little bit of the Eberron book that was sent to me by Wizards. Where's that audio coming from? Purposes. Oh, from my iPad. Sorry about that. So, anyways, I reviewed the books earlier in the week on Twitter, and I did a video on YouTube, and I put it up there, and the books are really nice. I'm not much of an Eberron person. I've never played an Eberron. I've never ran a game in Eberron, but these books are beautiful. Really nice. This alternate cover one is gorgeous. And the Roll20 version is, it includes this art as well. It includes really nice, pretty art. We'll go through all of that now. This video, I do want to point out, this video is possible thanks to the support of my Patreons at patreon.com/NewbieDM. It's $1 Patreon that I have up there. A lot of that money goes to charity. It goes to the diabetes charity that I support in honor of my mom. And so that's why I have that Patreon set up. If you like the stuff I do on Twitter, if you like the videos I make, the commentary and all that stuff, my blog, maybe throw a buck at the Patreon there. It's for a good cause, and that's it. Let's get to the video. It's early morning. I look like crap, but it is what it is. Let's do this. So, like I said, we'll be reviewing Eberron, Rising from the Last War. The Roll20 version, and you see here the two covers. Wizards of the Coast was kind enough to send me review copies of those, and we looked at those earlier in the week. You could go through my Twitter feed at NewbieDM to check those out. But the Roll20 version of this is here. And this is, by now, if you're familiar with the way Roll20 lays out their products, their D&D products, then this should be no different to you. This is, pardon me for a second. I want to get on open this app on my iPad, and so I could mind the chat. Sorry about that. Boo. All right, so we have the review copy cover. So let's take a look at the pages that are included. So we have the start page, which is this one. We have a token page, which includes all the monsters and NPCs in the book. We have a we have a blank battle map page. We have the world map. This is really nice. I don't think this map is in the book, actually. I was looking through the book, and I don't think this map, is it? The book includes a poster map,
by the way. The book includes a poster map. I don't know if this world map is in the book. But I'm going to zoom in as close as I can here on the map so you can see how high resolution this is. It goes, you can get in there pretty close, and the resolution is really nice. It's a good quality map. And there's the main continent of Corvair. The book includes a poster map of Corvair, and you can get that same poster map here in Roll20, right here. I've been battling a cold for a week, and I'm dying. My chest is killing me. Sorry about that. So here's the poster map, and as you could tell, I'm gonna get in there real close. There's a lot of cities marked here, a lot of towns, a lot of things on this map, and you can get in really, really close. And then in Roll20, obviously, you could pan around and sort of go anywhere you need to go on the map. Now, it really doesn't get too blurry. It's a little bit blurry as I'm zooming in all the way, and it's a little bit blurry, but not terrible. I think it's, very good quality. Very good quality. What else do we have here? We have the world map, continent map, and then we have the black and white line art maps that are pretty much standard fare now for WotC products these days. The other day on my stream and on Twitter, I made the mistake of saying that these were all Dyson Logos maps. They are not. They are Dyson Logos, and Dyson Logos does have a lot of maps in this book, but there is a co-cartographer in the book, and it's Lee Moyer. So Lee Moyer also does art in this book, and I'm going to assume, and I don't know which is which, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to assume that some of these maps are Lee Moyer maps and not exactly Dyson Logos maps. I can't tell you which is which, but he does have a credit in the book. So all the maps in the book are in here in this line art style that has become such a divisive point in the D&D community. Some people just absolutely love these maps, and I count myself as one of those people. And some people absolutely just do not like this style of art for their D&D. The arguments I've heard are that for digital tabletop gaming, this type of art is not as immersive as it could be, or as nice as it could be. I'm going to be very honest with you. If I'm playing on Roll20, and I play on Roll20, enough. Lately I haven't been, but I've played many hours on Roll20. Like, this to me is perfectly fine. Like, I see nothing wrong with this. This is, this is great. I'm sorry. And on the tabletop, this is fantastic. Like, translating these maps over to tabletop for me is just so easy and so quick to convert these maps to a drawing I need on the tabletop, or printing them out. They save ink. If you wanted to print them out at home on a few sheets of paper, it's just, it's very easy to do. It's very easy to do. So I'm a fan. I am a fan. What else do we have here? We have... so there's more. Here's one with a little bit of color. And I noticed this one in the book. It stood out to me in the book precisely because it did have some color to it. Let me see if that color is a different layer. I don't think so. No, It's part of the map. Yeah, but it stood out as having a little bit of color. So this map is the... And we'll go through all the different locations now. This map is called the Demon Ruin map. Look at all these maps. Look at all these maps. Fallen Warforge. Look at that. It's a Warforge statue turned into a different encounter areas. So nice. So nice. And then here's one that I found pretty interesting. So Eberron, if you're familiar with Eberron, you know, you have your lightning rails and your airships. So here's a map where you can build your own lightning rail. The folks at Roll20, you know, mentioned it to me as something that they added here. That's obviously something you can only do on virtual tabletops here, but you can sort of grab your maps here, your cars, and move them around. You could copy and paste and create more. You could add to the page, you know, in the back end here, and you could add more cars or copy some cars and replace some cars. Like let's do one. Let's replace this car here, this dining car. Let's get rid of it and let's replace it with this guy here. Where'd it go? Oops. Did I just make it disappear? Uh-oh. Not sure where it went. You see something. Now I'm intrigued. The case of disappearing train car. What did I do? Copy. Paste. Oh, there you go. Okay. So here we go. So you could add cars. You could shuffle things around. So you can make your own custom train. It's nice. It's a nice feature. I thought it was worth pointing out. And then you have a page here with different rail cars. I would have liked to have seen this page have the cars as independent cars, so that you could have done that copy paste thing over the other page easier. They're not. This page is one full page. Found that a little weird, but there it is. So you have options with the trains, and then the rest of the pages are more maps. Again, in the typical Dyson logo style, which again I'm a fan of. All right, so let's go through the actual book and let's see what the book includes here. And if you go over here on the right side of the screen, you have all the information laid out for you, and it comes up as these pop-ups, right? So thank you for purchasing. Visit our bug report. Blah blah blah. Battle map scale. It tells you a little bit how they, the maps they include. Each grid square is 5 feet on the yard as well as 5 feet on the Roll20 grid. No adjustments are necessary. It tells you what non-gridded maps they included. World map, continent map. Here's something neat. Non-gridded maps. These maps do not have a grid but are sized so that if you use the measurement tool, it'll count the correct distance length. That's actually kind of neat because if you need to travel in Corvair, let's say, let's use the distance tool. Let's test that out. Here is the distance tool. Nope. Oops. No, that can't be. Feet? No. What's going on here? Page scale. No, I don't think that's right. I just used the distance tool. That didn't work. Unless I'm doing something wrong. Alright, so let's move on from that. Game settings tells you all the different settings, what the tokens have, the lighting, the light radius, all that stuff. I don't tend to use a lot of this stuff in Roll20. I tend to really use it as a tabletop, and I don't tend to get bogged down with the lighting stuff and all that video gamey stuff. I know it's convenient, but I tend to use it really as a digital table. And I don't. It also slows it down a bit in my system, so I just try not to use it too much. Macros for the Dungeon Master. Macros for the specific adventure called Forgotten Relics, which we'll get to soon. So you get your full, they offer you everything you need to start playing right away, whether you like to play with in-depth stuff on the tokens and the lighting, all that stuff. If you're into all that stuff, they set it up for you so you don't have to worry about it. And if you're not into it, you can just ignore it. But it's there. It's an option. There's a credit page here with all the people who are credited in the product. I haven't gone through it to see if all the credits line up with what's in the book. I'm going to assume they are. Although there was a book recently, Descent into Avernus, where they left out a writer. And the same writer was also left out in the digital versions of the book. I'm hoping that this isn't the case here, but I'm not going to go through these credits now. Needless to say, it's a full long list. Let's see who the lead designers are: Jeremy Crawford, James Wyatt, and Keith Baker. Nice to see Wyatt back on the D&D team. He's a long-time WotC guy, a great designer. Ben Petrisser, Bill Benham, Dan Dillon, James Introcaso, and Adam Lee. I'm going to assume this is one of Dan Dillon's first things he started working on when he got to WotC. He's been there. Hi, Dan. Hasn't been there too long. All right, so credits. And then we get into the meat of the book. Welcome to Eberron. Welcome to Eberron. And the way the Roll20 lays out everything, they basically, it's all text. The book text, they put it right here in these handouts. They divide the sections. They divide the sections in the book into what I call, handouts or digital handouts. And if you wanted to, you could show them to the players. There's a show to players button up here, so that your players can follow along. If you're into that sort of thing, sharing information, you can. It's laid out almost, as close to the book as they can. The text is all word for word, basically what's in the book. I'm not going to go through all the content, but everything that's in the book is here. And then they also include art. So whenever you see the here on the side here, whenever you see something like this that looks like paper, that means it doesn't have any art on it. It's just text. But whenever you see a little thumbnail here, whatever that is has artwork. So it's text, and the same thing you got in the other ones, but with a little bit of art included. And this art, you could click on it and zoom it in, so you could see it at a larger scale, right? And you could show it to the players if you wanted. So there's that. And this book, wow. Can we talk about the art real quick? This book has some I could tell that's a Wayne Reynolds piece. I can't say if that's an older piece that's being reused. That I won't speak to because I don't have a lot of familiarity with older Eberron content. But that is a nice piece of art. I guess that's the last war that we're rising out of in Eberron. 5e art, man. 5e art is really hitting. It's just top-notch art. Every release is just so good and so much better than the last almost. Nothing but good things to say about the art for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. It's amazing. So, chapters in the book: Chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. Character creation, Corvair Gazetteer, Sharn City of Towers, and Building Eberron Adventures. So, if you're familiar with 5e books in the past, this book is no different. At the end of the book, you got your treasures, your magic items, and your monsters in the end. Here, Chapter 1, Character Creation, is a few new things for Eberron. If you're new to Eberron, if you're not familiar with this setting, and I think I am in the minority when it comes to that aspect of the community, but I was surprised to see that bugbears and goblins, hobgoblins are par for the course in Eberron. You could play any of those, and goblins apparently are city folk. They're not even like the wild goblins from Core 5e. Something called a Kalash Tar. You have orcs, which are specific to Eberron. Not sure what the Eberron... Oh, look at that. That's see-through art. That's a transparency. Interesting. You don't see a lot of that here. That's cool. Eberron Orcs. You got shifters, which are kind of like your werewolf, lycanthrope type characters, and those have been around for a while. Warforged, the mechanical, almost robotic creatures native to Eberron. Those are all here. You got your dragon marks, which, again, I'm not too familiar with what they do. I know they give you something, and houses control them. I'm not. Honestly, I'm doing this a terrible disservice because haven't really fully read everything in that book yet. But dragon marks, something exclusive to Eberron. I guess they're magical. They give you some kind of extra abilities or so. Well, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Here they are. And they have artwork for all of them too. So, look at that. This artwork is transparent. That's new. I don't remember seeing transparent art in Roll20 before. Or maybe am I wrong about that? I don't know. That's kind of cool. Anyways, you have all the marks. This guy has it on his forehead. All the dragon marks available. You have art for everything. Really neat. Really well done. Aberrant dragon marks. So these are dragon marks that you take, and they're feat exclusive. So you have to be playing with feats to have an aberrant dragon mark. And they have optional powers available to them. Artificer. So, the new class from Eberron, the 5e Artificer. A lot of people love this class. I've never played an Artificer. I've never played with an Artificer at the table. I'm not even sure what it is they do. Masters of unlocking magic and everyday objects. Artificers are supreme inventors. Okay. There you go. So, they're inventors. Here in Roll20, you have a piece of artwork with an Artificer. You have everything you need to know about the class here, ready for you to go. You have a token for a Steel Defender, which is, I guess, a companion type thing. The 3 subclasses, the Alchemist, the Artillerist, and the Battlesmith, along with Artificer Infusions, which are things you could add to your, I guess, are magical items. Yeah, magical items are things you add on to magical items. Group patrons. Okay, so let's look at the group patrons here. And it's part of the character creation chapter. I liked this when I read this in the book, because this is something you could take in Eberron or out of Eberron. It really doesn't matter. Group patrons are basically a way to put your characters to work. They're basically your patron, and they sort of send you off into adventures, or they give you assignments. They grant you benefits. And in Eberron specifically, you have the Adventurers Guild, a crime syndicate, a dragon marked house, an espionage agency, and they give you examples of each. So, for example, the Adventurers Guild could be the Clifftop Adventurers Guild. The crime syndicate could be the Boromar clan, right? So the crime syndicate Patreon here. They give you a write-up. They give you a write-up of the Boromar clan as an example. With what, membership, enemies, benefits of being part of the, having them as your patron. Roles you could take in the group. Types of crimes that you can commit. And then, of course, art to sort of set the tone and set the feel of the whole thing. They have this for every patron in the book. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of these. University patron, religious order, newspaper, military force, inquisitive, immortal being patron. A greater will than a mere mortal organization or nation drives your group. It is an ancient power of immortal majesty, and its purposes are cosmic and inscrutable. Wow. So, yeah. They really go through different options, and you could lift these and put them in any setting, really. There's no reason why you can't take that crime syndicate patron out of Eberron and turn that into the Zentarim in Faerun, for example. Or take the head of state out of Eberron and turn it into, the royal family of Corvair in Faerun. There's really nothing. It's a great piece of it's a great addition to 5e and a great add to the toolbox there for your DMing and for your players to have something to add a little bit of depth to your campaigns. I really enjoyed reading that section. For the not as much for the lore of it, but really for the possibilities in gaming. No, not that the lore was bad, but the possibilities that the depth that it could add to your campaigns. So let's move on from the group patrons. Let's go now into the meat and potatoes of the book, which is the Corvair information. Specifically, this book goes into not just Corvair, the continent of Corvair, but then it goes specifically into Sharn, the City of Towers, devoting a chapter to each. So chapter 2 is all about Corvair, the nations of Corvair, some nice art. There's an airship. I'm not sure what I'm looking at here with this wall of faces here, but that's kind of neat. So it goes into the nations of Corvair. Every nation has art associated with it, along with a write-up. So here's some art for the nation of Under. John is asking me, would you feel comfortable using Roll20 as a sole reading source for this book, foregoing the paper copy for the digital version? I would. Because it includes everything you need. Now, I don't know if I would. I say I would, John, if I were sitting at the computer playing the game. I don't know that I would want to use this to read the book in my leisure time on my iPad in bed. No, I probably would not. But for gaming purposes, I would. Not for reading for fun. Not for leisurely reading, I would not. No. So hope that answered your question. So every nation of Corvair gets a write-up and a piece of artwork. Well, that's not true. Like, for example, Sire, the Mornand. I don't see any art here attached to this. Some of these don't have art attached to it. Shadow March is don't have art attached to it. But you do have a write-up on every major nation of Corvair. And the stuff they talk about, there was here, let's highlight this because I found this interesting when I was reading the book. So you have your stuff here in the book. You have your write up here, your general information here, right? But then they go into interesting things about Kibara. And as a DM, this is kind of cool. So interesting things about Kibara. So Kibara is one of the richest sources of Eberron dragon shards in Corvair, drawing waves of settlers and prospectors to this young and growing nation on the edge of civilization. Certain ruins in Kibara appear connected to the Age of Demons. And House Therash has a strong presence in Kibara. So without looking too much into this as a DM, I can see that Kibara seems to be a nation I could set adventures revolving around dragon shards and the searching for dragon shards and mining and stuff like that for dragon shards in, without even reading anything about this beyond the interesting things paragraph. They go into characters, cities and sites, and how they fare after the last war, which I guess gives it some context, gives the land some context, rising from the last war, as the book is titled. So it's a good snapshot of what the city is and where it stands after the last war. I feel without knowing too much, I feel I get enough out of each entry for me to do my own thing with. A good write-up here at the beginning, the interesting things bar, the character types that you could find there, and the cities and sites and how they fare after the last war. What more do I need? I think it's a fairly complete look at the nations of Corvair. They also go into distant lands of Corvair, and finally faiths and the religions of Corvair. Here's a piece of art with the religious symbols and the different deities and what they represent. Okay. The suggested cleric domains are from the player's handbook unless followed by an asterisk. So they include cleric domains from Guildmasters and Xanathar's guide here. In case you were wondering. So like Guildmaster's guide includes a domain of, let's see, where is it? Order. So if the sovereign host is Arion, domain of order, that's in the Ravnica book. All right. So that's that for that chapter. And again, all the artwork. Some is maps. So for the islands of Arenal, they include a little map. And that's in the book as well. So whatever's in the book is what they include here. And then you have the Sharn City of Towers chapter. And here they go into the specific, look at those airships. That's really nice. So they go into the city itself and a closer look at the city, how the city fares after the war. Art, a guide to the city, falling in Sharn, charts with what happens if you fall. Well, spoiler alert, you get hurt. Actually, these don't do any damage. These all save you from something, but something happens. So you fall into a sky coach, you fall past a hippogriff, a gargoyle or giant owl catches you, then threatens to drop you if it doesn't get a reward. So these are cool ways to not die from falling. Spellcasting services, shopping centers. I guess you can go to the mall in Sharn. That's fun. Adventure at the mall. The wards of Sharn. It's a nice illustration. That's in the book as well. Dungeons of Sharn. And here you have different write-ups on the different dungeons. Excuse me. So, Chapter 3, basically a complete look at the city, artwork, locations, everything you need to adventure in Sharn. And I'm going to assume that some of those locations are tied to some of these maps here that the Roll20 version of Eberron brings. Chapter 4, Building Eberron Adventures. This chapter in the book goes into what makes an Eberron adventure an Eberron adventure. Eberron is a noir type setting, intrigue, that sort of thing. And the book tries to give you sort of advice on how to create these pulp type of adventures that Eberron, the Eberron setting wants you to be, right? And they give you advice on how to improve your villains, how to create villains, moral ambiguity on your villains, that sort of thing. So they give you advice on how to create adventures that gel with what the setting is trying to be. And then it gives you adventures on how to use different and how to use different parts of Eberron in adventures. So, and I say parts, but that's not the word. But I don't know what the Aurum is exactly. So it's an exclusive society for the richest and most influential people of Corvair. Okay, so it tells you how to use the Aurum. If you want to create an adventure around the Aurum, it tells you how to do it and what kind of NPCs you could create and what themes you could have with a campaign revolving around the Aurum and missions you could go on for the Aurum. So, it takes a deep dive to all these Eberron specific things, and then it gives you advice on how to craft adventures around those things, which is really neat. I wish newer DMs who were playing in the Forgotten Realms, for example, had something like this for the Forgotten Realms, because right now the Forgotten Realms has been sort of piecemeal settings. They give you an adventure, and then they try to highlight a little bit of the world where that adventure takes place. But I really wish we had a more in-depth look at the Forgotten Realms, sort of like what they've given us for Eberron and what they gave us for the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica as well. All right, so let's keep looking at adventures in Eberron. Building Eberron adventures. There was one thing that they included in this chapter that I found an odd inclusion. Not that they included it in the book, but that it made it to this chapter. And that is the Planes of Existence section. I thought maybe this should have been part of chapter 2, where we look at the Corvair Gazetteer, but they included it here in the adventure section. And the planes in Eberron are a little different. Than what I'm used to. Beyond the ethereal plane and the plane of shadow, which are sort of normal for D&D, everything else here is very odd to me. And unless these are proxies for existing planes, and I don't know if they are or not, this is kind of interesting. I want to take a look at this and see how it jives with the rest of the multiverse. I did notice though in the multiverse here of Eberron when I was reading the book, and I'm gonna assume that this part is here as well. That they kind of want Eberron to live in its own little world. Here it is. In your campaign, you might decide that the barrier formed by the Ring of Siberius is intact, and contact between Eberron and the worlds and planes beyond its cosmology is impossible. This is the default assumption of this book. So basically, Eberron sort of lives in its own existence out there, and they don't want it to mingle with the rest of the prime material planes of the multiverse. So yes, Eberron is part of the multiverse, but no, we kind of want it to be out here without mingling too much with the rest of the multiverse. Thank you. So, if contact between Eberron and the wider multiverse is reached and unlimited, consider the implications for everyone involved. So yeah, they're kind of telling you here, leave us out of the rest of the multiverse. We're not interested. And that's fine. I don't know. I wonder how many people actually like cross worlds in their campaigns. Like they hop from setting to setting. That'd be interesting. And then finally, they finished this chapter with gods, travel, crime, and the adventure that's included. Let's take a look at the adventure. So real quick, the travel stuff is really they tell you how people get around, and that's lightning rails and vessels powered by elementals and that sort of thing. Real magical, fantastical stuff. Gold Dragon inns are inns throughout Corvair, where you can find a nice place to sleep for the night. Crime and Sharn, they go into crime and different organizations, criminal organizations, and street gangs. And a lot of this stuff you could lift it and maybe put it in other worlds. So the book includes an adventure. Now there's going to be spoilers here, obviously. So if you don't want to get spoiled, either get off the stream or turn off the YouTube video. But I'm going to go into spoilers here. Let's go into the Forgotten Relics adventure. It's an adventure included in the book, meant to introduce a party to Eberron. It starts you off at first level. It's set in the city of Sharn, and it's sort of an introduction to the city. And it is called Forgotten Relics. And what I'm interested in looking at here is not really the story. You know, I'll let you read up on the story once you get the book. I don't want to give too much away here, but I'm really more interested in some of the encounters. Like I've been playing the Essentials kit with Mike Shea from Sly Flourish. He's been running me as a one-on-one campaign, you know, with a companion character, and we're finding that some of those first level encounters are tough, like really tough. First low level D&D is so much tougher than high level D&D. First, second, third level D&D is brutal, especially first level. First and second level D&D is brutal. Once you get to the higher levels, your characters are so much harder to kill, but first level characters are so soft. And encounters are so hard to get right at those low levels to make sure that you give characters a chance to survive. Like you think about encounters in Tyranny of Dragons or in the Essentials box, and man, those first level encounters are difficult. So I want to see what these encounters here are. Let's see how they do it. I honestly don't. Let's see. High walls. This should be an encounter here. It's loading. That's taking kind of long. Let's try it again. High walls. There we go. All right, so here's an enemy. Warforged soldier. We can click on it. It opens him up. It opens up his character sheet. This guy is a challenge 1 creature. And let's see. Urban chase. If Cole runs away and the characters pursue her, use the chase rules and urban chase complications to resolve the scene. Urban chase complications. Cool. Alright. Mithril Tower encounter. Alright, so what do we have here? 4 human guards provide security with 2 at the front gate. 2. A shifter, a noble, guards. I mean, I gotta read through the adventure to be able to properly do this. But I'm really curious about the encounter. How's 4 goblins for a party? That's should be. Yeah, that's easy. I'm gonna go and do a little deep dive about that. I want to see how this adventure plays for low level, first level characters. Because man, some of the low level stuff and some of the published stuff is brutal. Like the Avernus book. I'm playing Descent into Avernus now here at home, and some of those low level, early level encounters in Baldur's Gate are tough. Like you gotta pull punches sometimes if you want your characters to survive. And it's not that I don't think death shouldn't happen in D&D. I'm actually quite the opposite. I think that it's part of the game. But you got to give the low level characters a fighting chance, and some of these encounters aren't built. They're just too tough. They're just too tough. But I like to see what does, and I also want to read it because I want to see how good of an introduction to Eberron it is, and to Sharn. Like if it, like, am I gonna get the Eberron feel from that adventure? That's what I'm interested in. Because again, I've never played an Eberron, and I want to see if that adventure is going to give me a taste of what Eberron should be. To me, an introductory adventure to a setting should, more than anything, should help capture the feel of the setting and what the setting is supposed to be. If it doesn't do that, then in my opinion, it doesn't work. Regardless of the plot, regardless of how good and how memorable some of the encounters are, if it doesn't give me a good taste of the setting, then it sort of misses the mark a little bit. Okay? I'm not saying it does that. I want to read it to see if it does that for me. And then chapter 5 is treasures. And this is just, magical items, basically. This is what we're talking about here. Magic items in Eberron. And if you're familiar with the way Roll20 lays out things, it's more the same. So here's an item, earworm, wondrous item, uncommon spells, and then these things are clickable, so it just lets you cast detect thoughts. You can click it here, it'll open up detect thoughts and let you read what it does. If there's a rule here, you could click on the rule and it'll take you to the rule. So it's very convenient. Very convenient to play when Roll20, when it's done right and when it gives you all the access you need to stuff. It's very easy to play with Roll20. And it gives you access to everything you need. You could be playing on Roll20 and honestly you don't need to open a book at all. If it's done right, if it's set up right, and if you organize yourself, Roll20 is really wonderful. It's a wonderful tool. Chapter 6, Friends and Foes. So this is laid out like a monster manual in the book, and here it's no different. Nothing new here if you're familiar with 5e stuff. The back of the book is laid out like a monster manual, and here in Roll20, here I'll give you an example. You have a monster here, so for example, this guy attacks with a spear. You could click on the actual entry, and it'll show up here on the chat box your attack. So, again, convenient to play in. Everything's done. Ready to go. I don't see any damage there. I wonder if that's because there's no other players in this game right now. I don't know. Not sure. But normally you'd see damage there as well. And then finally, where else? What else is there to look at? We have the monster manual. Generic NPCs. These are NPCs made for Eberron. We have a Bone Knight, a Changeling, a Kalashtar, Mage Rights, a Shifter, a Tarkanan Assassin, and a Warforged Soldier. So these are more NPCs to add to the game if you wanted to. And finally, player art handouts. These are things that art that's in the book that you could use it to set the tone, set the mood, give your games, your Roll20 games, some feeling here, some immersion. Beautiful art, like I said. This art is transparent, and I'm having a tough time remembering if most Roll20 art is transparent like this. I don't think it is. That is nice. Oh, there's that Fallen Warforged. There's actually a map in the book for that guy. Let me show you. So here you see the Fallen Warforged, the big Warforged statue there. And he's actually, we saw him earlier. Let's go back real quick. He's actually here. The Fallen Warforged. Here he is. Dyson, I'm going to assume Dyson logos. Well, let me not assume that because there's two cartographers. But there he is. You could actually go inside that statue and play in there. You have art for the chapter title pages. And all this stuff you could show your players. Art for the classes. So you have the Artificer art here. Creature and monsters. So all the creatures get art. These are all handouts that you could use to show your players. What is a Kalashtar? I gotta read up on that. Kobolds. You have art on the dragon marks. Man, every piece of art in the book is really on here. Eberron lore art. So player art handout, The Last War. There's that Wayne Reynolds piece. I need you to zoom in on those Kalashtar abs, says Dave the Game. Let's do it. Hold on, let's find him. Where is he? I'm going to do it. You asked for it, I'm going to give it to you. There, zoom in. Hold up. Hold up. Oh, I can't. Boo. Alright. Oh, there you go. There you go, Dave. There you go. Zooming in. They're similar to mine. Mine are a little more defined. But there you go. Giving you what you want. Giving you what you want. Now look what you made me do. Let me get back. So all right. So you have all the art in the book. All the items get art as well. Dragon shards. And I love this dapper dwarf in a suit. It's great. It's like a buddy of mine. Corvair Gazetteer. So you have all the art from the different locations from the chapter on Corvair. All the maps. You can have them as handouts as well, even though they're pages in the book. You could also have them as handouts for the players to see. The patrons, the races, and finally the supplemental material, which is not stuff in the book. I think this is stuff from the just generic stuff that they add here. That's not necessarily from this book, but you could use it when playing in Eberron, so they include it here. That's just stuff, 5e stuff that they add. All right, so I think that's really it. I mean, if you're familiar with Roll20, then it's pretty much you pretty much know what you're getting when you got something like this. Although I want to say, and maybe I'm wrong, I think they've included a lot more art this time around than before. It feels like maybe they threw everything, every piece of art there at the end as a handout. I'm not sure if that was the case before. I'd have to go back and look at some of my other Roll20. I don't own everything on Roll20, so I can't say, but I do own some. So I gotta see. And that's it. That's the look at Eberron. If you guys in the chat have any questions, I could try to answer them. If they're gonna be Eberron specific questions about lore and stuff like that, I may not have the answer. Only because I'm not too familiar with it, but if it's a question about Kalashtar abs, I probably will be able to answer that. So I'm going to screen grab that and put it in my iPad for later. Anyways, so if you guys have any questions, if not, I'm going to call it a review, and that'll do it for this look at the Roll20 Eberron Rising from the Last War look. Alright, thank you for joining me on the chat, on the stream here. I'm going to put this video up on YouTube. And again, I want to thank all my patrons who make this possible. My Patreon, again, it's a $1 thing. You know, I do mostly for charity. It goes to diabetes, which is a charity that's important to me. Anything specific about the lightning rail, Bartonius is asking. Well, let's take a look. There is. In the section on Corvair, there is a travel section. Let's look at that. On the Building Eberron Adventures. Sorry. Travel. Lightning Rail. Orion Lightning Rail. Here you go. There is a map on the lightning rails. It writes about the lightning rail, how it works, the operation, lightning rail stations, and we saw a piece of art later down there. I'll show it again. And then you have a chart on mysterious passengers you can find on a lightning rail. So if you want to create an encounter or some random stuff set in a lightning rail, you can. So here it gives you a lot of information on setting things in a lightning rail. Passengers, how it works, maps. And then remember that there is a page here above where you could actually create your own train. Where is it? Where did that page go? There is a page, and I showed it earlier, and I'm not sure where it went, where you can create your own train. Where did that page go? What am I doing wrong here? There's a page where you could cut and paste train tracks. Not train tracks, train cars. Hey, where'd it go? Weird. Alright, maybe I gotta reset the game. Well, if you were in the stream earlier, you saw it. There's a whole thing about rearranging train cars and creating your own train and whatnot. So yes, there is a whole section on lightning rails, and there's a piece of art down here in the gazetteer. Let me see where it is. I don't remember which one it is, but there's a piece of art here that shows the lightning rail. Can't find it now. I don't remember where it was. But yes. All right, so that's going to do it for the stream. I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and if you have any questions about it, if you want to ask me anything, or if you just want to chat about it, I'm always on Twitter at NewbieDM. And that's going to do it. All right. Thank you guys for joining me on the stream, and we will see you around. All right.